You don't lack confidence, you lack permission because you don't know who you really are or where to position yourself in this world. But confidence is not something you are born with or without. It's something you build from scratch, even from being the most insecure person on this planet. I was that person. But people in my life today don't believe I had any problems with self-esteem. They assume I must have grown up with love, attention, material comfort, pride, and privilege. I used to be quite offended by this, thinking, oh, clearly they don't know me at all. But now I just feel flattered. It means my efforts have worked and confidence has become my identity. No one questions it anymore. Even though I hated and sabotaged myself so much that you'd be surprised I'm still alive today. And in this video, I'm going to share what I've learned throughout the decades to become confident in 3 practical steps. Because if you know what I was like, you'd believe that if I can become confident, anyone can. Before we talk about the practical methods, let me share some traits of my old insecure self. Maybe you've experienced similar difficulties too, and I will tell you what they mean and why they exist. I didn't grow up with my parents. I briefly mentioned this in a previous video about how I transformed from being completely broke to a 6-figure salary with a new life in just a few years. Children who grew up without parents would easily encounter a lot of predators because they radiate vulnerability. And this type of abuse from predators would instill shame and self-hatred in the victims. I was also constantly told by family members who raised me that I was a burden. Every couple of years, I got to meet my mother, and she kept telling me, even in front of others and in public, that I was ugly and stupid because I looked like my dad. So from the age of 7, I always walked with my head down, always staring at my shoes, and I often stood in front of the mirror and slapped my face. I also started to dress like a boy and pretended to be a boy for many years. I found it impossible to introduce myself, couldn't even say what my name was. I didn't talk much with people, and when I did talk, I couldn't complete a sentence. I even continued to struggle with this communication impairment until recent years, until I was almost 40 actually. I remember once, I think I was 7 years old, an adult family member took a group of children, including me, for a bus ride. And he said to us, "The bus is empty, go grab a best seats." Others ran onto the bus and grabbed their seats, but I got onto the deck and started spinning around. I felt completely disoriented and frozen inside. Everybody started laughing at me, the adults, the children, the driver. I always remember that scene, and later in life, with therapy and education, I learned this is about disorientation rooted in survival programming, especially in a child with a history of trauma, neglect, or emotional abandonment. So if a child grew up being made to feel like a burden or like their presence was unwanted, their environment was dangerous, then even a neutral setting like stepping onto a bus can trigger self-uncertainty. They don't walk in and claim a spot. They walk in and scan for where is it safe to exist? Who might get annoyed if I sit near them? Am I allowed to sit at all? The spinning or freezing is a physical representation of the mental loop that I don't know where I fit in. Children raised with secure attachment develop a kind of internal GPS, a felt sense of groundedness, direction, and confidence in decision-making. Abused children, on the other hand, lack the internal compass. So when they hear "go grab a seat," they're urged to orient themselves in space and in society. And without that emotional grounding, they spin, literally. When I was about 9, my aunt took me and my cousin to a park, and there was a maze. Since I had no sense of direction, I just couldn't get out of the maze. They got out and started laughing at me for spinning around. I felt such shame and injustice that I started to bang my head against the wall and was sent to hospital for stitches. After that, for over 20 years, whenever there was a negative emotion inside me that I couldn't contain anymore, I'd bang my head against the wall like I was committing suicide. This type of behavior, as I later learned, is not to seek attention or to end life, as it might seem, but to end pain. The pain was so overwhelming that only an even more intense pain can stop it, like death. And together with the slapping my face in front of the mirror, they are self-directed violence, and they are the internalized voices of others who hurt and abuse intentionally or unintentionally. The message is, how dare you be you? It's a form of self-rejection to avoid external rejection, because if you hurt yourself first, maybe it won't hurt as much when the world does it next. And the reason why I couldn't introduce myself, do you know what self-introduction requires? A sense of identity, a belief that your name matters, and the emotional safety to take up space. So if someone can't say their name, it's often because they don't feel real. Their sense of self is fragmented, or they've been gaslit or neglected to the point where even their existence feels inconvenient. In trauma, this is called identity diffusion. A child doesn't know who they are because who they were wasn't reflected back to them with love, and they carry this identity diffusion into adulthood. I remember when I was 14 and I was in a sports event with a classmate. The coach asked everybody to introduce themselves. When it was my turn, I just said quietly, "I'm from the same class as her." I looked to my classmate. The coach encouraged me to say out loud my name and where I was from, but I couldn't. I froze. Others in the group became really impatient and pressured me to speak, but I just shrunk more and stayed frozen. They finally moved on, and I couldn't remember what happened afterwards. I only remember the sunset, and there was a group of teenage kids sitting in a circle in the sports field. One of them had her head down, couldn't speak, while everybody else was being impatient and disappointed. When I was 16 and was asked to introduce myself in front of the new class, I got on the platform and mumbled my name and just said, "My hobby is binge eating and dieting." That's it. That was my self-intro. All these behaviors scream one thing: I don't feel safe being me. And when someone doesn't feel safe in their own skin, they will try to escape. So they self-harm, self-erase, or self-transform. And now let's talk about the transformation part. Step 1 is to create a new identity. Most people think identity is something you are born with. It's not. Identity is repetition. It's a self-image reinforced over and over until it becomes belief. If you were told you're ugly and stupid and you believed it, that became part of your identity. If you were neglected and internalized, "I'm not worthy," that too became identity. But here's the good news. Neuroplasticity means the brain can rewire, and that means identity can be rebuilt. Confidence is not an emotion, it's an identity you act from. And no, you won't feel ready at first because you are literally doing something your nervous system is not familiar with. You are now building new neural pathways. So instead of asking, "Do I feel confident enough to do this?" ask, "What would a confident version of me do right now?" And then do it. Your brain follows action, not theory. Confidence is owned by behaving as your confident self. If your old identity was built by people who didn't see your worth, then you get to build a new one on purpose. What I did first was to change my name. My name is Mercy. It's not a name I was born with, and I hated my old name. Sometimes I meet people and say, "My name's Mercy." They would ask, "What's your original name?" That's an extremely difficult question for me, and I always just brush it off. I know they don't mean any harm, and it's probably just curiosity and politeness to ask for my original name, but it doesn't matter what my name was. It only matters what my name is now. The name is an incredibly important part of our identity, so if you don't like your name, change it. In some countries, you can depot your name, change it legally, and even if you cannot do that, you can use your new name for your online presence and ask people around you to call you by it. When people like my family and old friends called me by my old name, I just don't respond, and over time they grew to remember me by my new name that I gave to myself. Step 2. Find role models. It's one of the most powerful psychological shortcuts to becoming confident when you don't know who you are or never got to be who you could have been. Because trauma stole the pen from your hand. You need someone to model the script. Someone to say, "Here, this is how you stand. This is how you speak. This is how you claim space in a world that told you to stay silent." But it's not about copying, it's about mirroring until your own reflection returns. Humans are wired for mirroring. Mirror neurons in the brain fire when we observe someone else doing something, especially if we emotionally resonate with them. It's how kids learn to speak, walk, regulate, and adults do it too. If your early experience modeled shame, self-rejection, and emotional chaos, guess what your subconscious mirrored? So now you get to consciously choose new mirrors. Role models are the emotional blueprints for the identity you are trying to build. When you find a role model, someone you respect, admire, or feel a visceral pull towards, ask yourself, how do they walk into a room? What tone do they use when they speak? What do they not explain or apologize for? What boundaries do they hold without guilt? You are not copying their personality, you are learning the embodied language of confidence, so your brain and body can start speaking it too. And find multiple role models, not just one, because you are not trying to become one person, you are building a new ecosystem of self. Pick one role model for how you want to speak, one for how you handle conflicts, one for how you walk, dress, carry energy, one for how you parent yourself internally. This gives you a psychological patchwork until your own identity feels like a second skin and not a costume. They don't have to be rich and famous either. They can be someone who has healed what you are trying to heal, or makes you feel, if they can do it, maybe I can too. Or a friend who stopped apologizing for their needs. Your nervous system doesn't need celebrities, it needs proof. And you can alchemize your pain into power towards possibility. When you find someone who triggers your admiration or even jealousy, don't shrink. Study. Your body is telling you, this is a version of you trying to be born. Raise the new you with imitation, intention, and repetition. That's how you become confident, by mirroring until you no longer need a mirror. That's how I cured my speech impairment too. Okay, step 3. Last but not least, look after your physical appearance. It's not about vanity, it's about self-respect made visible. If you want to become confident, you need to understand this. Your body is your first boundary, your first language, and your first vote in the world. And if you don't take it seriously, why would others? I'm not saying go do tons of cosmetic surgery, because you don't become confident by fixing your face, your weight, or your wardrobe out of self-hatred. That just creates a more polished version of insecurity. You know, people can become addicted to surgery, workout, shopping because they lack confidence. And true confidence is self-prioritization. So eating healthy foods, having a workout routine, doing your hair, dressing well, taking care of your skin, fixing your posture, those aren't shallow. They're acts of reclaiming your presence. You are teaching your body you are worthy of care and attention. Before you open your mouth, your body already told the room how to treat you. So stand up straight That's your nervous system saying, I belong here. Wear clothes that make you feel embodied, not hidden, not distracted. Care for your hygiene, eat foods that provide nutrition. Look in the mirror with yourself, not at yourself. Your physical appearance is a form of self-ritual. When you take the time to care for your appearance, you are saying, I don't abandon myself anymore. It's a spiritual act and psychological, and yes, it's physical too. The more you show up for your body, the more regulated your nervous system becomes. And why? Because self-care creates predictability and safety. Every time you put lotion on your skin with care, or fix your posture, or choose clothes intentionally, you are sending a message to your brain. I am safe now. I am cared for. I am worthy. And that softens the inner critic and builds self-trust, which gradually becomes confidence. And those, my friends, are the 3 simple steps to become confident. They are simple but not easy, so please keep working on them, and I promise you that you will see results. Thank you for watching this video till the end. You know, I recently started this YouTube channel to share emotional intelligence on healing, growth, and transformation based on my personal experience. And if you want to know how to protect your energy from toxic people, here's a video I prepared for you. And if you want to stop your negative self-talk, here's another video. Thank you again for being here. I will see you in the next video. Bye!